Hello and welcome to Tar Heel Teachers at Home. I'm Marlow Artist. I'm the moderator of the program and proud principal of Craven Early College High School in New Bern. Tar Heel Teachers at Home is an interview series focused on engaging North Carolinians in conversations around education. Each week, I'm happily joined by a wonderful panel of educators, each one representing a particular subsection of education. We'll start our introductions with our elementary school co-host.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Tart. I'm the assistant principal at Union Elementary School in Sampson County Schools.
Hello, everyone. My name is Natalia Mejia. I am the North Carolina NCAD 2023 Empower Beginning Teacher of the Year. I teach 6th, 7th, 8th, and English as a second language in Cabarrus County Schools at C.C. Griffin.
Hello, I'm Tanya Smith. I'm a vocal music educator at Elkin City Schools and Elkin High School and Elkin Middle School. I'm the 2020 Piedmont Triad Region Teacher of the Year. You can find me on Twitter at TECS.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Arisha Smalls. I'm the AIG Program Coordinator for Cumberland County Schools, and you can follow me on Twitter at SmallsArisha.
Fantastic. For this episode of Tar Heel Teachers at Home, we are chatting with Heather Smith, who is the 2024 Burroughs Wellcome Fund North Carolina Teacher of the Year. Heather is an 8th grade math teacher at Waynesville Middle School in Haywood County. Heather, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and to represent North Carolina.
We are so excited to have you, Heather. You were announced as our new State Teacher of the Year on Friday. We're recording this interview on Monday, so it's just a couple days ago that they made the big announcement. Heather, when did you realize that you were the State Teacher of the Year, sitting in that room with all those wonderful educators, so many great people across the state who are continuing to do great things in their classrooms, but you were announced. How did you realize that you were the one that they were talking about, our state superintendent was talking about?
Well, I want to start first by just repeating what you just said. I was in a room surrounded by some of the most amazing educators, past, present, especially my regional team. They are wonderful educators. I know that you have an educator right there in Craven County who is thebomb.com. She is
Yes,
amazing.
she is.
So I have to point out that first, that I was surrounded by amazing educators. And so I don't think it really hit me until she said my name. And so it was a total shock. And so I'm very thankful for this opportunity to be appointed the next North Carolina Teacher of the Year. But it wasn't until that moment, because when you're in a room full of excellence like that, you can't imagine that it's you. So it was a shock for sure.
And even though it was a surprise, you were so calm, cool, and collected, delivered your message with such conviction. How were you able to maintain your composure in that moment?
Education is so much greater than I am, right? So I maintained my composure because I felt truly in that moment that I was speaking for so much more than just myself. And so when I got up there, I knew that to be able to be on that platform physically,
Hmm.
I needed to be strong and needed to be calm and be firm, because I want to be a positive representation for the teachers and the students of North Carolina. Emotionally, I was surprised I kept it in. I am a crier, not gonna lie. But tears were flowing before I got up there. But just in that moment, I knew that I needed that composure, because it is a position that we hold. And in that moment, I felt as if I were speaking on behalf of not only my regional teammates, who are wonderful, but on behalf of all the teachers. So I knew I needed that composure to be able to be firm, and so that people could clearly hear the message that I wanted them to hear.
And you really shared a very powerful message. And when you talked about the Western region, you did get a little bit emotional. So,
I
what
did.
does the Western region mean to you? And what was it that really kind of got you a little choked up at that moment when you were reflecting on the fact that you were not only representing North Carolina, but representing Western North Carolina?
Well, I mentioned in my speech that it had been 30 years. So, of course, kind of in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't really think it can be somebody from the West this year. I want it to be, but it had been so long. And I know it has a lot to do with proximity and how close. And I know I'm going to have to travel a lot further than most people, but it's important to me, especially because the voice from the West is a voice that needs to be highlighted. There's amazing things happening. Just the culture that we have in Western North Carolina that needs to be shared, the backgrounds that people bring to the table, and most importantly, the resiliency. We have this community connection in the Western region of the state that shows this just triumphant and resilient people that want to show the world what they can do, but sometimes they are so comfortable where they are that they're okay with just being who they are in their own space. So I'm excited to highlight that, especially Haywood County. We've been through so much, and watching Abby Bentley on here, and she kind of shared with you just what Haywood County has gone through in its own, with the mill closing and the flood, the cyber attack. I mean, we had it all, and COVID. And so to see our group of Western region individuals that came forth and said, you know what, these things happen to us, but we're going to come out stronger on the other side. And so I'm so excited to share that voice from that rural side of North Carolina and make sure that it's heard, but also to bring back to Western North Carolina what the amazing things are happening in the rest of the state. And that's where I bring in my regional teammates, knowing that on the coast, Anita Rubino-Thomas is doing some amazing things in art education that I can bring back to the western part of the state, or seeing things in the central part of the state that Rachel Brackney can show me, and so that I can bring back. And so it's a two-way street. I'm excited to elevate the voice of the West, but I'm also excited to bring back some of the great things that are happening across the state to the West.
That's fantastic. Before I turn it over to the co-host, Heather, give us an overview of your career. How did you get started in education, and tell us about your experience up to your current position?
So I actually went to Western Carolina University on a softball scholarship. I was very excited to play Division I softball for 4 years, but things that I also want to tell my students, and this is what we talked about on Friday, it seems like that, the hint that I love real world connections. I love relevancy. And as an athlete, your sport ends one day. And so it's important to make sure that you are prepared for the future. So definitely a team mentality person. If you hear me, I'm going to rely very much on my regional team because they are just amazing individuals. But I wound up at Western Carolina University and I studied elementary education. And side note right here, elementary school teachers are some of the most remarkable people that I've ever met. The amount of effort that they put in to be an expert in all areas is just outstanding. And so I loved teaching elementary education. I actually taught for 3 years, all in a 5th grade classroom. And I loved being able to bring in the science piece, especially with it being tested, but really bring that into the classroom. But I found that at the elementary school level, I'm 6 foot tall and I scared a lot of children. No, that's not true. I'm a lot bigger than a lot of kids, but I felt that there was something missing. I knew that I loved math education. I loved the fact that I was able to understand the foundational skills and the building blocks at the elementary school level. And I knew that that was going to help me at the middle school level. And so moving on, I went to Canton Middle School and for 1 year, and I got married and we lived in Waynesville. So I found myself at Waynesville Middle School, where I teach 8th grade math now. But it is because of my background in elementary education that I attribute to what I do in my classroom now. The amount that these educators do, and it's great in all areas. I hope that everyone understands that, but the foundational skills that our elementary school teachers are laying for our students in the higher secondary levels is so important. So I loved every experience being an elementary education major, but I definitely found my niche in middle school. So that's where I am now.
That's great, and so many different perspectives that you'll bring to your role as the 2024 Bureau's Welcome Fund North Carolina Teacher of the Year. What questions do we have for Heather?
So Heather, I saw that one of your mantras that you kind of abide by is you are who you teach. So can you kind of talk about that and how that kind of plays into your teaching philosophy and how you are in the classroom?
Yes, I talked about that in my first article ever, and I was so excited to be able to speak about that. Just being having the perspective of teaching at the elementary school level. I talked about how our elementary school teachers, with their nurturing ability to instill a love for learning at an early age, and then in the middle school level, having that sarcastic personality to be able to give it back to them. But it goes a lot more deeper than that. I think in the sense of you are who you teach means to me that the way that I promote myself, the way that I share myself with my students is so important to what I want to be a reflection for them. So, for example, if I can show respect, my students are going to show me that same respect. If I can model what it looks like to be resilient in the classroom or hardworking in the classroom, then I can see that my students will do that as well. But also being able to connect with your students on a deeper level, like taking pictures of my students in my overalls, like, come on, y'all, we get out there with you. Knowing that I can relate to them in all different levels. So when I made that comment, what I was truly trying to represent was being able to connect to students on a deeper level is so important in our field of education, and making sure that we can make connections with all students in every area.
I love that so much. That's such a powerful statement. Kind of follow up. So math has always been a weakness for me. Like I was a reading girly and I can still remember sitting at the kitchen table crying because I did not understand the math. So how do you kind of really reach down to those students that maybe struggle with math, that maybe that's a really weak point or a point of contention for them? How do you reach those students?
Thank you for that question, because I made the comment during my acceptance speech that all students are math students. And whether they realize it or not, I believe that it's important for teachers to bring that out in them. But that starts by creating a positive identity in any subject area. But in the math classroom, the positive identity that I'm talking about is you may have just been able to get that first step where you added two numbers. I'm going to be like, you did that. Let's write your name on the board, because we're going to celebrate the fact that you did this. Celebrating the fact that I may not be able to get to the end of my quadratic formula and figure out how to properly factor that. But if I can identify the fact that this is exactly the steps that I'm supposed to be taking, those are so important. So first thing is providing that positive identity that everybody is a math student. You are able to do this. You may not get to the end result the same way that somebody else did, but we're going to find the way that you are uniquely suited for that. So that's the first step. The second step is finding the way that they get to that. Knowing that sometimes the traditional way isn't always going to be the best way. Knowing that we have these different types of professional developments that we can pull in, of understanding just the basics, the foundational skills, making sure that students understand that. And so bringing that elementary school, bringing out the manipulatives, making sure that, yeah, I have to make sure that I'm putting all these pieces together, but that's okay, because that's what works for me. And so celebrating the fact that there's 100 different ways to get to that one end result, providing that positivity, but also encouraging them along the way to make sure that they know that failure is a part of life, right? And so if I can understand that, yes, I may fail, I can work through it and be okay in the end.
Heather, I would love to hear your elevator speech for when someone says, but when am I going to need this? When they're talking about math.
So I always say that you may not necessarily need this formula. You may not necessarily have to solve for X, but you are going to have to overcome obstacles. So this is when you're going to need it in life. So that is what I tell my students, that no, you may not use this exact formula, but you are going to have to overcome. You are going to have to figure out how to get to an end result. But it's your resiliency, it's the ability to overcome is what you're going to use in the future with your math education.
Is there a certain story that you share with your kids of your own personal resiliency?
Yes. So one of the things, I'm the complete opposite, like math, I love math. But reading education was not my strong suit. And I would say, because when you ask me to infer, I think they all sound great, right? Like, oh, let's infer about this. And everything seems right to me. And so I actually share with them my first SAT that I took. And so, because for this awful reason, we have to focus on a statistic or a standardized test. So I try to put myself in the same boat as them, and going through that test was the most difficult thing that I had ever had to do. But at my time, I needed it to be able to get into college. And I actually shared with them how awful I did. I was like, here is the actual scale of what you're supposed to do, and this is what I did. And I share with them not to say, oh, Miss Smith failed a test. I share with them in the sense of, oh, Miss Smith, you took this and you could have given up, or you could have redid it and done a lot better. So mine is not really the sense of failing a test, but making sure that they know that I have to be able to overcome something that is required of me, but also it made me better in the long run.
Thank you for that. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Did you have something else?
I was just going to say that's something that I'm working on with my own children, resiliency, and trying to help them to develop grit, because those are skills that they're going to need. Everything's not going to be easy. So I like that you're working on that with your students in your classroom.
Yes, thank you.
I would like to just state that I love what you said about that there are different ways to get a solution to a problem. And music and math are so like that together. As a music teacher, I'm not a math person. I broke the mold. Like, musicians are supposed to be mathematically inclined. That is so not true. That is not true. I was a literary person, but I do math every day with my music. I really do. And I teach my students as well. There are many ways to get to a solution. And just speaking of coming up with solutions, and you're going to be the new advocate, new spokesperson. That's very exciting. I love hearing you talk because you're so excited. So that the numbers are stating that teacher retention is down, that attracting people to the profession in the state of North Carolina is down, and actually nationwide. As a spokesperson, as an advocate for public education, what do you think would be a possible solution for that?
Well, that's a great question. And I don't think that one person has the answer. I think that it's important that we know in education that it's going to take multiple people and it's going to take multiple avenues. I have suggestions on where we could start. I think that we need to start at our local universities and connecting them, whether that is at our smaller community colleges or even just early in high school, like that early preparation and helping students get early college students getting involved. And so when we start at those local universities, I think that we need to prepare them in the sense of, yes, we all need to know how to write a lesson plan. I completely understand that. I think that is something that every teacher needs to know, but I think they need to know like the basics of what classroom management looks like, because when we get our when we get our teachers in the classroom, that's one thing that overwhelms them. I don't know how to get all these kids in the room to sit down and listen to me. If we can help our early ed students to understand the basics of how to thrive in the classroom outside the lesson plan, and helping them understand the curriculum that is being taught in schools. I think that was one of the biggest concerns that I had going in is I know that this is something I have to learn. I learned it this way, but what is my county doing? What is the state of North Carolina doing? What is working? What are other teachers doing to make this successful, making those connections? So I think starting there, giving them the positivity, giving them the best outlook on what classroom management looks like, and then then bringing in the other pieces of the extracurricular things and things like that. But I think one of the most important things is going out and talking and sharing. My regional team is made up of teachers that not all of us started in the education path. If you look at Eric Mortensen and Will Mars, they both had careers before coming into education. So if we show individuals that the trade that they're in or the career path that they're in, the impact that they have on students and the world around them, and the difference that they can make to evolve the world, that we can bring other people not on education paths into this wonderful career of education. So I don't think there's just one correct answer. I think there's multiple avenues that we can go down, and I hope to work with my team to be able to talk about ways that we can encourage each of our regions to recruit and retain. But I think it starts early in the early education departments at our local universities, but then also going outside and looking in the non-traditional way, because we have great examples of people who made that career change into education.
I actually did that. I started teaching at 26, but I was not originally an ed major. So I hear where you're coming from. I really do. And I like what you said about the encouragement piece. I think that sometimes I agree with you. We just stick people in a classroom and we expect them to know what to do. And, not everybody does. And sometimes it's a skill learned. It's not a skill that's innate. So all of that is very real. So that's you coming up with different solutions for different problems and saying there's not one real answer. I love that. You're staying true to yourself. I love that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, Heather. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to be talking to you. So, for my first question, this year is going to be a big year politically, and diversity and equity are so important in education, but have often led to cultural wars, especially during election years. The state of North Carolina is so diverse. Working with other TOY teams and your TOY team, what are some ways you would like to continue working towards equity for diverse students in the state of North Carolina?
So, how awesome is my predecessor, Kim Jones, and the work that she does to ensure that we have equity. And I love that she talks about cultural relevance. And I think that making sure that we as teachers and we as educators are in control of what we're doing in our classrooms. And so I think that making sure and ensuring that all educators have the access to the professional development, understanding that there are different ways to reach all students in our classroom, ensuring that we are prepared to teach all students. But again, and I hope that everyone understands how big of a team player I am in the sense of making sure that we are bringing in all aspects of the state of North Carolina, leaning in on each other, making sure that we are continuing the legacy of what Eugenia Floyd and Leah Carper and Kimberly Jones have already started to do within our state of North Carolina in the previous Teachers of the Year, and making sure that we kind of get rid of all the noise outside and focus on the students. That's truly who we're here for, right? And making sure that every educator has the access of understanding that we need to have that cultural relevance in our classroom, that we need to ensure that we are reaching all the needs of the students. So I truly believe it is going to be a team effort in making sure that we cancel out all the noise, we pay attention to what the amazing things that the previous teachers of the year have already started and the legacy that they have created, and making sure that we lean on each other to bring in all aspects of all areas and making sure that we create that environment that kids can thrive in.
That's so true. And it's always so important to work together, especially in this work. And so for my
Yes.
follow-up question, what legacy would you like the 2024 TOY team to leave for North Carolina?
We've already started this legacy, and whether we know it or not, we are showing students the multiple avenues that can be taken. We are a team that is built up of educators that are from so many different backgrounds. Like, how awesome is it that we are highlighting CTE education, art education, trade education, and elementary, middle school, high school? Literally every single area is being covered. And I'm so thankful for that. And so, what you had talked about with equity is making sure that we show our students that no matter their background, no matter the subject area they teach, no matter the subject area they're learning, we are showing that we are having multiple paths for them to be able to go down. We don't have to be the traditional way, but we can highlight their differences because we are so different in the sense of the background that we teach and where we come from. So I'm excited as a team to be able to build on that.
Thank you so much.
Heather, I want to ask you a question regarding our math legislation. So North Carolina has been making really big moves with auto enrollment for our advanced courses in math. What impact have you seen in your school or in your classroom since that legislation has passed?
So I've seen a lot with math education, and I want to start by talking about some of the changes that were made within our new legislation with focusing on our reading education and the strides that they've made. And our teachers are so resilient in implementing new things. And I know that the teachers of North Carolina are going to do amazing things when asked to do things. So that's important. When it comes to math education, I think that it's so important that we are focusing in on what students need to be successful. And so to see the strides that teachers are making to just focus in on what is needed for the future of our students is so important. And as I go into this in this new role, there are going to be so many new things that I learn and so many things that I get to be a part of. And so as I continue to learn these things, I'm excited to be able to go out and share. And with math education, that's something that I'm super excited about. But making sure that people know that we may not have all the answers, but I will do everything in my power to make sure that the voices are heard, that my team is sharing the information that is being brought to me. And so through middle school, I have seen in our rural area that our math education is growing because our teachers are taking the strides to learn new things and to gain the confidence of teaching our students what is needed for their future.
Thank you. My hope is as you travel around the state that you keep a keen eye on our advanced learning opportunities. in my district, in my region, I am on our leadership team. And we are trying to spread the word about the state of advanced learning in North Carolina. Other states look to us for direction, and we need as many voices as possible sharing the good news.
So Heather, you could have an exciting year ahead of you as the ambassador for teacher leadership and teacher voice. What excites you the most when you think about the year ahead? You're going to step outside the classroom, which I know that could be a little bit apprehensive. So I know there has to be a little bit of apprehension there, kind of making that shift. But what really excites you when you think about the year ahead?
I think what excites me the most is being able to learn, being able to bring back, being able to take from the Western region the things that we are doing. But I think what most excites me is learning from the individuals that have gone before me, encouraging and being a positive light for those who are wanting to get into the profession, but also bringing the positivity of public education to our great state and making sure that people know that what our students are doing matters, what our teachers are doing matters. And so I am excited to just be one voice that highlights the amazing things that they're doing. And I'm super excited, of course, to work with my team to be able to bring in the entire state of North Carolina and work together to do the best that we can. I'm very nervous about leaving my classroom because it'll be hard, especially when you devote everything to the people that are in front of you, not just the kids, but the teachers as well. When you feel that you are the positive person in the building trying to get things going, you worry about them, right? But I also am so excited that when I do get to have the opportunity to go to Waynesville Middle School, I'll be able to say that you're in good hands. There are amazing teachers doing wonderful things, and I cannot wait to be a part of that and highlight those that I get to come in contact with.
Well, please consider us a part of your support
Yes.
team and your extended team, because we don't want to support you over the next year and support the regional team. So we hope that you'll come back on this platform and give us an update on how things are going as you travel across the great state of North Carolina, because there's so many wonderful things happening in our schools. We're so happy that you're gonna not only be able to see it, but also be able to share it.
I'm excited too. And most importantly, I'm excited to share that education is important, right? We need people to understand that what we're doing matters. These kids matter. They really do. So I'm excited to highlight that. And I'm so thankful for this opportunity.
Absolutely. We look forward to continued conversations. We would like to thank our audience so very much for watching our program. We hope that you will engage us on our social media platforms. Please like our Facebook page. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please follow us on Twitter at Tar Heel Teachers. Please visit our website, tarheelteachers.com. And on all of our social media platforms, please use our hashtag Tar Heel Teachers so we can find all of your great comments. We'd like to thank our wonderful group of co-hosts for joining us for this conversation: Amy Tart, Natalia Mejia, Tanya Smith, and Arisha Smalls. And once again, we'd like to thank our special guest for joining us, Heather Smith, the 2024 Burroughs Wellcome Fund North Carolina Teacher of the Year. We look forward to seeing you next time on Tar Heel Teachers at Home.